It's time for Done Being Single with your hosts, Trevor and Robbie Sharf. If you're dating the same type over and over again, making the same mistakes and not finding love, then you're not done being single. What you need is some tough love dating intervention, Trevor and Robbie style. Whether you're new to dating or have been dating forever, we've got you covered. Now, here are your hosts, Trevor and Robbie Sharf.
You're hard. You're a tough producer-director.
Well,
my husband is a very tough director.
You know, I gotta wear a couple hats here.
But it's good.
I'm glad.
You're very good at it.
I'm glad you think. Oh, thank you, honey. I'm glad you think so.
Yeah, it's hard to rein me in. I'm like a wild cat.
Certainly.
That is the truth.
Is that what they say? Herding cats?
You're like a feral cat sometimes.
Yeah.
I like cats.
Yeah. How are you?
I'm doing quite well, thank you. How about you?
Okay, good. It's getting better.
It's getting better.
Yeah, it's
All the
getting
time.
better. Yeah, it is. It has not been easy.
No, it's not been.
We've gone through a tough time.
Yes, we've discussed that. But our friends are going through tough times too right now.
And a lot of people are going through tough times.
We have friends that are going through loss that
We are at that
experienced
age.
in the past few years, yes.
As we were putting this show together, pre-pro, we were talking about a lot of our friends in this age group demo are losing their parents, as we have. We lost 3 parents in a year and a half. And it's been a real mind blower for me.
Right.
And you, and in your own way.
Oh, absolutely.
And how can it not be?
If depending on the relationship that you have with your parents, when they depart, hopefully you have your issues with them. If there were any, they get resolved before, but many people do not resolve these issues with them while they're alive.
Well, it closes one chapter and it starts another one. And both can be very either exciting and freeing, right, and liberating, or they can be complicated. And as it has been a bit for me, this new chapter now without my parents, what's going to look like? How's it going to play out? I will tell you that I've never been more aware of my mortality. I've never been more aware of time. And that time is precious. Wow. What it was just a giant lesson. Agree?
Yeah, oh, absolutely.
And to make the most of it.
And the friends that you value are precious.
Yes. And what else it has done is it's made me want to heal things, that maybe I couldn't have while my parents were still alive. It has brought awareness to areas of my life that I probably knew about but chose not to deal with, or because I couldn't, because whatever reason.
This would cause you to question things but not have the ability to speak to them and get these answers, force you to find your own answers.
Okay, well, that brings me to the topic.
Wow, really?
Because it has everything to do with that.
Okay.
About answers. And not getting your answers. And not getting maybe the closure that you needed. Or getting whatever it is that you didn't get when they were alive. How do you find it? How do you find it for yourself? How do you find it in yourself? I had answers. I had questions. I had questions. And why this comes, full circle to today's show is that because we have a psychic medium on today who specializes in this, and I had sought out the counsel of a channeler right after my parents died, and it was very interesting what I found out because I had questions. What do I do now? What do you want me to do now, Mom and Dad? How do I proceed? How do I carry on your legacy? How do I forgive you? How do I take what you've taught me and same with you.
And keeping with your compound
What was your
questions, you asked 20 questions
I
at one time.
well, of course, I asked a
understand.
million questions, and
I didn't have it. Luckily for me, and the relationship I had with my father, we were good. We left on the most beautiful terms. It was him leaving was a natural progression of a 99-year incredible life that he lived, and my relationship with him was very different than my older sister's relationship with him. But I valued it greatly, and he lived in Baja, and we spoke every day and expressed love for each other, and it was a beautiful thing, and there was nothing really unresolved. There were subjects that I wasn't able to talk about with him because he didn't like talking about them, and I knew that early on, and so that was unfortunate. And so if there was anything unresolved, it might be in that category, but everything else...
and you're cool,
I was okay
and
with it.
you're content, and you have no questions. You are...
As you know, I have not grieved when my father passed.
Well, you
much.
did in your
But
own...
in
a
not-
peaceful, non-tortured way, like I
felt
did.
more grief while he was alive in dealing with our post phone calls.
Right, I know.
What I felt after I hung up with
Right.
him. And that brought more tears to me than
Yes.
after he passed. So
Yes.
that's just me, though.
Yes. No, it's and you had kind of a long time to wind it down with him, and to make peace, and to resolve stuff, and to
Yes.
tie up loose ends, but sometimes we don't get to do that. Sometimes we don't. Sometimes we choose not to. I feel somewhat, now that I've processed for about a couple years now, I feel more peaceful, and I feel like I'm doing what they would want me to do.
It's a great feeling. Okay.
I think you are too. I think your father would be very proud, and your mother, of how you're living and what you're doing. And
I hope so.
Right?
Of course.
Okay.
We think so.
So and you know what? We were talking about divine timing with our guest, whom I'm going to introduce, and I do believe that it is really divine timing. And if I am searching for a title of this episode today, it is going to have the words divine timing in it, because I don't know. I just think that it's all, even how you and I met, right?
Yes.
Was a little maybe master plan. And now, we have to acknowledge that and honor that there might be a bigger reason for everything. Okay, we're going to get into that. Good. So I'm going to introduce our guest today. Matthew Stapley is a naturally gifted, full-sensory psychic medium, ordained and licensed minister, inspirational speaker, and healing facilitator. His professional career began at age 17, and since that time, he has been featured in dozens of publications, podcasts, TV shows, and has created 2 oracle card decks, and has assisted thousands of people worldwide in working through grief, self-acceptance, and fear. That was a mic drop. I mean, end of story, period, full stop.
Right.
That's what we're talking about today. He is also the creator of a weekly live stream show attracting hundreds of viewers from across the globe through his Facebook page, Matthew Stapley, Psychic Medium. Oh, that is his Facebook page, Matthew Stapley, Psychic Medium. Aside from his incredible talent of providing evidence of life after death through mediumship, Matthew has also garnered the attention of people worldwide with his unique ability of looking at life's very real and very difficult problems with a lens that sees, I'm pointing to myself if you can't see me, that sees the intricate architecture and underlying benefit of the challenges that we all face in our day-to-day lives. And Matthew, welcome. And I read your full bio.
Come on in, Matthew.
Because
Hey guys, thanks for having me on your show.
I just want to say one thing. Sometimes I condense the bios because it's a lot to read, but yours I needed to really read the whole thing because it's so relevant to what we are talking about. So thank you and welcome.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here with you guys today.
Thank you. So you had a chance to listen in on our private conversation.
Mm-hmm.
And we're interested to hear your thoughts because this is a little bit up your alley.
Yeah. Well, first of all, it was like listening in on a private conversation. Part of me was like, should I still be listening? Should I come in later? Um, and thank you. I think I'd love to start off by saying I think what you guys provide to your listeners by letting us all, listen to these conversations is how real everyone's path is and how different everyone's path is and how two people can come together even though their backgrounds and experiences are quite different and still find a sense of healing and togetherness and things like that, which I think is profound, really. And I think the service that you offer in that way is pretty special. And the first thing that I really noticed when I was listening to your conversation was how different each of your grieving processes have been. And it sounds like both of you had experienced different like types of loss in the way that they happened. And this is something that, I mean, every single person who loses somebody loses them differently, even if, let's say, it happened at the same moment and it was the same cause of passing and all of that, it would still be different for each person. And I think you guys, the way that you expressed that and how each of you went down your own journey with coming to terms with it, I think is a really amazing testament to how unique every single person's path is.
It is unique. No one's really the same, I don't think. No two
No.
people.
I've often felt somewhat envious of Robbie's process because it was so peaceful and just kind of lovely. And I mean, I really envy that.
Well, it's so 180 from yours in that regard because neither of your parents went out kind of peacefully.
Well, that's true. They went out sort of in spectacular fashion as they lived.
That's true too.
Yeah,
But,
as dramatically as you could get. They did not go quietly into the night.
So maybe that's the first subject to address is how does one come to grips with an exit like that from their parents? And
it's a tough one, and everybody's different that way. But I think that what I've noticed in my experience is when somebody loses somebody, immediately there's a period of shock, and there's a can't believe it. Not that they don't want to believe it; it's like they can't believe it because it creates such a profound change in those of us who are still here on Earth in our daily lives, our routines, the way that we think. And our ability to connect with our loved ones appears to be severed, right? And that's something that a lot of people experience right off the bat, and it's this sort of wanting or needing to find a way to get that love to where it used to be able to go or flow so easily. And I think the first part of grieving a lot of the time is coming to terms with the fact that this horrible loss has happened. And the second part, I think, is the really long part, which is often how do we connect still, or how do we let that love continue to flow in a direction where we know it's being received by our loved one. And those are the two major pieces of grief that I think are very prominent in somebody in the first several years after they've experienced a loss. And like you both, I've lost one of my parents, and it was very, very challenging. Even for me, who's a medium who talks to people who have passed away all day long, it was still like a brutally challenging experience. And yeah, I think that everybody's path is different. I think the beginning of grief is different for everybody, but there is still a similar process, which is that, having to accept that this has happened and then having to figure out, well, how do we have a relationship with our loved one, even though they're not here anymore? And that's something that I personally believe everybody can do. I don't think that you need to see somebody like me to talk to people who have passed on. I think that it can be helpful in getting answers back sometimes, but overall.
do you focus on a specific part of that relationship that was positive in order to maintain that love that you want to have with them once they've gone?
I
What is
think
it?
sometimes, yes. I think in the cases where it might have been a very challenging relationship, people have to jump into that side of it as well. Because when people pass away, we're left with a legacy, but sometimes that legacy isn't so clean. Sometimes it can be a really beautiful experience. It sounds like from what you guys were saying, both of you had amazing relationships with your family. And so that's, a kind of an easier legacy in a sense to carry, not saying that the loss is easy or the grief is easy, but there's a lot of joy with that legacy. But sometimes people are left with other things they've inherited that are, mental, emotional hardships that they've, had from a young age even. And so part of grief is even looking at all of those things. And so I think, is it better to focus on the positive or not? I think it depends on the kind of relationship that you had with the person who you've lost, because it's not just about healing the missing them and the heartbreak from losing them. It can also be sometimes healing the relationship that you had with them.
Oh, for sure. 100%. Because you don't have them here anymore to talk it out with and to work out
Exactly.
your problems. And no, it's on you now. It's your work to
Yes.
do. And I don't want to walk around one more day with carrying any more baggage than I have to. I will not. And it has been my mission for the last couple of years to process this and address stuff. I mean, it hasn't been easy. It is a task that I signed up for. It can be excruciating sometimes, just reflection,
Yeah.
and self-examination
It's
is
not
really
easy to stand in front of the mirror sometimes.
no,
It can be really, really hard.
no. Yes, but here's what, we've got this second chapter now, right? Both of us. So now, and I want to make the most of it. And we got married later in life, and I want to be healthy and happy, and for my husband, I want to enjoy these years. I see how precious and short life can be, and it does kind of put a little fire under you to want to, get your
Oh,
shit together,
totally.
for lack of a
Yeah.
better word. And I think, as we were saying, we have a whole cohort of people and friends that are experiencing this right now.
This week,
In fact, this week,
two of them we lost.
two of
I'm
our
sorry to
very
hear that.
good
Yes.
friends lost their parents. So we're sort of, knee deep in this right now.
And it's hard even to know how to support the people that we care. But even if we've gone through our own grief one time or many times, it's still, how do we support other people that we care about when they're going through it? And that can be really challenging as well. Even for those of us who have walked that path of having to sort out our emotions and our states of being in relation to relationships that we've had that are no longer here. But I have no doubt that you guys are doing a great job at helping the people that you care about
Yes.
through this.
Well, by helping us, I hope we are helping other people. And it has made me way more aware of compassion and patience and understanding. Having to process my own pain has made me very sensitive to other people's journeys.
Yeah.
So, yes, there's all kinds of upside.
It's kind of interesting because we hear some friends of ours whose parents may be in a home or in a hospital or something, and they're upset because the parent isn't responding or acting like the parent used to respond. And here we're thinking, we've been there, we know that, but value every minute that you're with them, and that's the most important thing, and not to lose sight of that. And sometimes that's the best advice we can give, or the only thing that we can really give and offer. But we know what that's like.
Yeah. And I think having, showing that supportiveness and that solidarity with people is something that can be really helpful, as you're saying, leading up to that moment of somebody's passing and afterwards as well. So I would say that that's absolutely a really valuable thing that you're giving them.
Okay, good.
So
That makes me feel good.
Yes. So for people that did not have the best relationships with their parents or a parent, and they end up dying on them, and there's unresolved stuff. what are the steps that somebody can take to overcome that and get on the other side of that?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that it really depends on what their needs are in the moment. So if we look at all the potentials of things that can happen when there's a difficult any relationship and there's loss. I mean, sometimes people really need, professional mental health support because there's trauma on top of trauma. I think for people who can sort of navigate it a little bit more on their own, I think that they need to understand that whatever they feel is a valid feeling. If they're super angry at the universe, at their loved one, at, whatever, for all of the way that these things happen, that they need to allow themselves to experience that anger. If they're sad about it, they can experience sadness. If they're happy about it in some cases, then it's okay to feel that as well. I think the first step in looking at grief is to know that there is no emotions that are off the table. There's nothing that is wrong or bad. The only thing that you can really gauge grief by is this a healthy process or not? Is this something where the person is now harming themselves because of their pain? Or are they in a process where they're, it's hard, but they're getting through it. They're in one piece. It's healthy. So I think the first thing is, to allow yourself to feel whatever it is that you need to feel in the first parts of that. And when we can get comfortable allowing ourselves to feel whatever we feel and not put a right or wrong label on it, we take a huge step forward to self-acceptance. And this goes even beyond grieving, to be honest. If we can look in the mirror and say, well, I might not, by societal standards, have the right to be super angry or hurt or whatever about whatever is happening. But I still am, and I accept that I am, even if it's something that I want to work on. I think that door to self-acceptance opens many more doors on the other side of it. It's like a door to the hallway of other opportunities of working on yourself. So I think that would be the first piece of advice, is to accept whatever emotions come up. Just make sure that you're not using those emotions to harm yourself. Mm-hmm. The second step, I think, after that is really looking at the relationship that you have with your loved one in a very honest light. The good stuff, the not good stuff, the easy stuff, the hard stuff, all of that. I think sitting in all of those memories and understanding that even if somebody was hurtful to us while they were on earth, nobody's born a jerk. Everybody is a jerk because they're in pain on some level. And so understanding that that maybe forgiveness or compassion towards them, even in their hardest moments or darkest moments, could be useful retrospectively in terms of your own healing. I think that that's also something that is an important, angle to healing grief. And then understanding as well that there isn't not a time limit on it. There's no point where you can say, all right, it's been 6 months now, I should be better. Because it really is a long-term thing. And the painful side of it eventually can turn into joyful memories of, I remember when. And that it does take time for it to happen. It's not overnight.
I have a question for you. I'm curious,
Sure.
Matthew. We talk as we talk about divine timing, and we're talking sort of, well, I'm going to bring it, since I'm the queen of compound questions, since I'm the queen of multi-part questions that drives Robbie crazy, here's my multi-part compound question, okay?
All right.
Here it is. Divine timing in death, divine timing in love, is there some, why do people die when they do? And then how does divine timing work when you meet the one?
I like this question.
Does that all right. Thank you, Matthew. Thank you. Okay.
Take the win. He just said he likes the question.
Okay.
I do. No, I do. Actually, because the truth is, it's actually only one question, just with several examples of how it works, right? So technically, it's not that complicated. And every person that does any kind of spiritual work or anything in metaphysics or even philosophy, every person that you ask that to will probably give you a completely different answer, because I think we all have our own ideas of how the universe works. So I can only give you my perspective. But I think divine timing is a real thing. I think that Sometimes it's based on things that we have to do within ourselves. For example, I know when I was single a long time ago, I dated the same person in many bodies over and over and over again until I figured out something within me needed to learn a thing or two. And then I was able to break that cycle. And then I met somebody who's absolutely phenomenal. And we're going to be together 4 years next week. So it's awesome. But it took a lot of cycle breaking for that divine timing to line up for the universe to say, okay, Matthew, you've learned what you needed to learn about your past pain and the things that you've gone through that didn't work. So now you're ready, and here's somebody awesome. So I think sometimes it is lesson based. When it comes to somebody's death or losing somebody, I think that no human on this planet could really give you an answer to that. I think that whether it be somebody completes all of their life steps that they set out to do at a soul level, and then it's time for them to go, that could be one answer. I think another one could be that the universe is constantly conspiring to kill us and leading us eventually to our death. But I don't personally believe that. I think there's a million ways to look at it. I think that somebody's divine timing of passing is really between them and the universe itself. I don't know that any human could possibly comprehend how that could possibly work. And that's my belief. I think some things we're just not meant to understand.
I like that answer.
That's a good answer. I don't like it, but
well, it's
I don't like it either.
No, but you're right. You're right.
It leaves it wide open because I think that there doesn't have to be an answer.
Yeah,
for everything.
Why did your dad die on March 22nd? Why did mine go on May 8th? Why did our friends' parents, choose to go when they went?
Their expiration date is whatever that is, but there's no.
And is there really a good time to lose somebody?
Right.
That's kind of the other side of it, I think, is even, let's say, there was like the most optimal time possible to experience a loss, would it really make it easier? Probably not, because if something's optimal timing, it means life was probably going really well. So, there's not really a good time for loss. And I do understand the human wondering why things happen, though. I shake the universe down constantly for answers as well. Sometimes I get them and sometimes I don't. But I think that wondering of why something has to happen is totally normal in human nature. We're beings that like to rationalize things and to understand and compare and contrast our experiences. In fact, we're kind of built on the idea of resolving things. If you think about it, we're constantly trying to sort out our relationships with ourselves and the universe around us.
I'm pointing to Robbie because he's a very solutions-oriented guy. Mm-hmm. He's a problem solver. Yeah. And I also like answers. I like to know.
Which makes us very compatible because she's a problem creator.
Oh, that's funny. Ha ha. But you get it. But I'm a little. I love you.
Love you too.
I'm a little bit more. Well, I think I question more than he does about the universe and what's over there, and because I do believe, I believe you have a gift, and
thank you.
I do, and I honor it and I respect it, and I don't poo-poo it at all. That. Question for you: sometimes do you wish you didn't have the gift?
I've experienced, not that I didn't have the gift, but that I wasn't so sensitive all the time. I've definitely felt that way, because even if I'm not like receiving messages, even when I'm not receiving messages, I'm still feeling a lot of things. Like if I were to like walk through a room, full of people, I can usually feel if there's, somebody sick, let's say they have a sore leg, I might feel their leg pain. Or if somebody has had a really challenging day, I might feel their tiredness or whatever. So in that sense, I've kind of been like, oh man, I wish this would not be so intense.
You can't turn it off.
But yeah, right. And I can turn off like the messaging side of it and feeling spirits, but feeling spirits and feeling energy are two different things. And there have definitely been times where I felt like, oh man, if this could just be a little easier, that would be great. But I think that when I see that it can help a lot of people, and I don't know how many people have a job where they get emailed constantly saying, thank you so much for your Facebook post, or thank you, you gave me a message on a live reading and it, really helped me. I don't know how many people have a job where they get that almost every day. So I feel like that is a huge blessing. And for that reason, and seeing that it can help a lot of people, I don't think I would ever wish it away.
Have you felt that? Have you felt a presence from your parents at all over the past year and a half? At any time? Because we haven't really talked about that too much.
In the beginning, they came to me in my dreams a little bit, and I say came to me in my dreams, which is sort of I just dream. I guess I just dreamt about them, but no, not since. I've not had a dream. Although that's funny you should ask, because I did kind of have one about my mom last night, which was unusual, and she had the most beautiful skin. And I was up close to her. I went, wow, your skin looks so good. And she did have beautiful skin, but it was flawless. But the rest of her didn't look so good. But
she must have loved that.
But I did. Funny.
She loved compliments.
That's funny you should ask me that, because you? What about you?
I think I felt my mom's presence many years ago. My dad passed a year ago, March 22nd. I have not seen him since. I have not felt him since, which is a little surprising, because one of our favorite movies that we used to watch was the Houdini movie starring Tony Curtis. And if you're familiar with Houdini, he said something to his wife saying, if he was to die, he'd come back and visit her. And so Dad and I, we spoke about that during that movie or after the movie. And he says something like, I'll do that when I go. I said, I don't want to think about it. I was a kid then. But it hasn't really happened. So I have a feeling he is out having a great time. Whatever he is doing, he is just enjoying life, or post-life, I should say.
So one of the dreams I had about after my dad died, he looked great. He was about 30 years old. He was probably wearing like a 1950s like a leather jacket. He was smiling and not talking, and we were in a party, and he was just smiling, and I thought, yeah, that's you. That's where you're at. You're looking good. You're healthy. You're happy. It made me feel good.
For somebody that was not healthy, he was somebody who was not healthy, and so it's a great feeling to think of him in that regard.
I have a little. Go ahead.
Oh,
go ahead.
I was just going to say quickly, that's actually really what a dream visitation is like. Sometimes when people lose somebody, they have almost like nightmarish dreams where they're like, their loved one is mad at them or like disappointed, or they're frazzled or angry or whatever. And I think those kinds of dreams are us processing our own, grief and pain and experiences. But the kind of dreams that you're mentioning are what I would say is a true visitation, where their spirit, comes to be with us while we're in that heightened state of consciousness. And the way that you can tell the difference is the way that they appear. If they appear joyful or happy, or the big one is if they touch you and you wake up and you can feel it, or it still feels real, or it's very, very vivid, like it really happened. All of those are signs of an actual true visitation. And it sounds like, based on what you guys are sharing, that that's exactly what you both experienced. And for Robbie, like the not feeling your father yet, that's not that uncommon, especially if somebody is sort of working through their grief really, really well. They may not feel a visitation. Also, if somebody's really stuck and they're not able to move past certain elements of grief, they may also not feel a visitation either, but for a different reason. In that sense, it may be that their loved one understands that their presence might not actually be helpful, that it may hold somebody in that space of heartbreak. And so, what you guys are talking about is really fascinating.
I would tend to think that it is that, I hope I'm dealing with the grief well, but I don't think that there hasn't been a need from me to feel, where are you, Dad? Show me a sign.
Yeah.
I don't go through my days thinking that at all. So I can sense his presence within me without knowing that he's somewhere around here.
Yeah.
It's okay. I don't need to know.
I think that's cool.
That's, yeah.
Are people, are the loved ones that have passed over, are they with us, not us personally, in general, Would
Yeah.
you say
I
for most people?
I 100% believe they are. And I really believe that the spirit world has been heavily sensationalized in media and movies and books and everything. I think that when people pass away, and this is coming from, what the spirit world has told me over the many years I've been doing this work, is that when people pass away, they're instantly at peace. There's no like getting stuck or being trapped or anything like that. Everyone's instantly at peace. I think that and I believe that they have an instant understanding of their life on earth. So all of the good stuff, all of the not so good stuff, all of a sudden makes sense because from that sort of elevated bird's eye perspective, they can see all of the things they couldn't see on earth that happen behind the scenes. And I think that the other thing is that they're always around us. They always are walking with us on our path. I believe that when we think of them randomly, that's their presence stepping a little closer to us. Maybe I think when we have dreams of them, I think that that's them letting us know that they're there. And I think sometimes people get signs just through situational things, like something all of a sudden working out that really shouldn't have worked out so well, or hearing a song on the radio at the perfect moment. All of those things I think are orchestrated by the universe to support us in our experiences.
Curious, when does intuition turn into psychic ability? How do you know if you are just highly intuitive, which I think I am?
Oh yeah.
I feel
things. You are. Your aura colors say a lot about that, in fact.
I feel, and yet I don't call myself psychic, but there have been moments where I can look into someone and feel the source of their pain, for example, or I know why, excuse me, I used to be in the fitness business, and I don't know, I just, after a few minutes I could tell the client why they were overweight, or why they were stuck, or what was blocking them, or why they didn't like their bodies, and it was very helpful. It helped me a lot.
Awesome.
But sometimes I think, is that psychic ability, or is it just?
Oh yeah, no, that's psychic ability for sure. I mean, intuition people will say that intuition is something everybody has, which I agree with. I also think psychic ability is something that everybody has. They just may not notice it. But what you're talking about is a really good example of psychic ability that's integrated. So integrated in this sense means that it is so a part of who you are that you don't notice that it's sort of different or slightly supernatural or paranormal. Yeah, I think that everybody's, the way that I'll explain this, we all have that spark of life within every cell and it's sort of enigmatic. We don't really know how it started. We don't really know why it turns off necessarily outside of the physiological, health causes. I think that spark of life is having a constant conversation with the entire universe at all times. I think that we as beings on some subtle, unnoticeable level are having a conversation with the universe around us. And the only difference between somebody that can channel messages with that and somebody who doesn't, and I'm not saying can't, just doesn't, is their state of awareness, their ability to access it easily. I was born with it, and many people learn to develop it. This is something that anybody can learn to do if they take the time and patience and practice it. Where does intuition become psychic ability? I think just in the way that it's used. So what you're talking about with, being able to tell somebody why they're overweight or what's going on, at a personal level, that's contributing to the reason they're standing in front of you. I mean, that's not really different than what I do. Just that I'm not in a gym while I'm doing. So I think you've got it for sure.
Can I ask another question? I'm on a little bit of a roll.
What, of course.
Okay. I just love this. I feel like I'm speaking to kindred spirit. No pun intended. Okay. Another question on as it pertains to intuition. How do we know that it is gut versus head? Like, how am I feeling this on this feeling, this fear, or this concern because it's I'm feeling it on a gut level and it's telling me something, about maybe a person or something, a situation, a decision, or a choice I have to make, or is it my head playing tricks with me, saying, "Fear, don't do it," because
I think, yeah, that's a super good question. So a gut feeling normally will be our first impression, and whatever our thoughts are on the other side of that is usually our judgment of our gut feeling. So, for example, let's say you wanted to get a gut feeling on purpose. So you said, okay, should I turn left or right to avoid traffic, right? And you immediately feel I should turn right, and your head says left. You got to go with what you first feel to sort of you got to go with your first feeling, because that's usually the gut feeling one. Gut feeling is something that people can really learn to rely on more or practice. But in the beginning, most people who are trying to work with their gut feeling, they get this whole, is it in my head? Is this the real thing? Is this the right thing? And it really is just practicing it and learning how to feel that initial sense.
it's a lot. This happens a lot in dating. A
I
lot
believe.
of, yeah. I mean, people are challenged a little bit. There's, when they meet people online, and who is he, and should I go, and should I give him a second chance, and I don't know, and my gut tells me this, but my head tells me that, and maybe the head is not a great place to be in, because
I think it can be. I think it depends on what's in your head to decide whether or not it's a good place to be. If you think about it, like, for example, like, let's say somebody had a string of challenging relationships. They were difficult. They experienced some real scary hardships in those relationships. Well, their head is not going to really have a good running internal monologue for future dates, right? Or future relationships. But if they work through those things, if they heal those difficult experiences, that kind of declutters the ability to think clearly. That takes that lens off that they would, the lens of the past they're carrying in front of their eyes. It kind of removes that a little bit, so they can actually think clearly. And in that sense, their gut feeling and their thoughts might actually work harmoniously together.
Yes.
But if somebody is carrying a lot of fear based on past experiences,
Yes.
then that will cloud their gut feeling. It will make it harder for them to even feel something genuine within themselves. So is it bad to be in our heads? No, but we want to make sure we have a nice, well-decorated
Yes.
internal environment.
yeah, that's a great answer. And, this is from someone who lives in her head,
Yes, you do.
as Robbie knows, a little too much. And I can get a little too, I don't know. I worry a lot, I guess.
I got to pull her out of the rabbit hole sometimes.
I do. I go down the rabbit hole a little bit.
I think that's normal for a nurturer.
She goes
to be
dark.
honest.
She goes dark.
So,
But she can, the option to go light is always there, but the path usually takes her dark first.
yeah. Usually when that happens, and I'm speaking just from I'm not a psychologist, but from my own experience and having to do similar, work on myself that you have, I think I can say that does get easier over time. I think sometimes we have to unlearn things in order to relearn things. And this is true even what we were talking about earlier with that, what do we do when it's been a challenging relationship and we lose somebody? A lot of that can be unlearning as well. It's very challenging and it takes time.
Yes.
And one thing that helped me was learning how to catch myself in those downward spirals and then
Yes.
say, okay, Matthew, like, you've been down this downward spiral before.
Yes.
This is really going to lead somewhere different, even if the variables are
Yes.
different. And it takes practice. It's not easy.
Yeah, I'd also say that I probably have an irrational need to know and to have evidence. I
think
need
I
evidence.
can relate
Show
to
me
that.
that I am not blank, or that the situation is not whatever. So that's surrender. I think then that takes practice, letting go.
It does. And
and
self-trust as well,
Yes.
to know that you can get through whatever it is, whether you know the outcome or not.
Yeah.
So I think when you were talking about that, I got this strong feeling within me, gut feeling, that part of it is if you can be confident in knowing that you will overcome whatever shows up in your path, then needing to know exactly what's coming may not be as strong. So I think maybe with your own healing journey, you could take a look at like, okay, am I worried that I can't make it in situation A, B, or C, and then deciding that, you've been through every other letter of the alphabet up to this point that's prepared you for everything that could possibly happen next. And understanding that, even if you don't know the outcome, you can develop trust with yourself to get through whatever that is that shows up. And it will take practice, but
Yeah.
I think that you're
Thank
ready
you.
to do that.
Thanks.
You're
We talk about all the time, single people struggle with the red flag, green light. Is it a red flag? Is it a green light? Should I ignore the red
hard.
flag? Is that a green light? Should I go, and we have that in ourselves.
Yeah.
We struggle with our own red flags and green lights.
Totally. Daily sometimes,
Right?
depending on the day. Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Well, now that I've hogged this entire
No, you've done fine.
conversation.
No, this has been great because
Sorry.
you're on a roll. So any thoughts about, there's a Woody Allen movie, I can't remember which one it was, but in the movie, they were talking about, I don't know, masturbation. And they said, you don't want to masturbate. All your dead relatives are there looking at you. And I'm thinking, oh my God, does that really work? Does that happen that way?
That's how I feel about having pictures of family in the bedroom. Because they say not to have photos of.
Yeah. My partner says that he refuses to let any family photos of people.
Yeah.
Well, anybody actually in our room.
Right. It's kind of a feng shui thing too.
It's kind of
It is, yeah.
But it's to put the guilt in you before you can start that process.
It's okay, baby. You can.
Is it okay?
Yeah.
All right, good.
You can
good
rub
to
one
know.
out.
Oh, good.
You feel good about it.
Yeah, I don't feel like they would be judging you even if they saw it.
Yeah.
I think their awareness is not like it was on Earth.
They're jealous. All right. So anyway.
Oh, no. They're getting way more up there.
Are they?
Oh, man. Come on. My dad is.
He's Captain Groovy.
Yeah.
He is doing that. I think my dad is too.
Oh, for sure.
We heard a friend of my sister passed away a few years ago down in Mexico, and she used to cut my dad's hair down there, and she was just a lovely friend. And she visited my sister after she passed. My sister had a visit from her, and so my sister Wendy said, tell me, how's Dad doing up there? And she goes, oh, well, first of all, your mother's pissed because he doesn't want to, he's not with her at all, and he's out there having a great time. So this is what came, it was the message that came from the friend.
I had a similar one because
Yeah,
I asked the channeler that I was consulting with,
Anyway.
Mom and Dad, are they together? Because my parents had this on again, off again
Yes,
they
they
divorced
did.
when I was super young and never quite, they just sort of stayed connected. And she said, no, they're in different corridors,
Yeah.
which I was happy about. Because that's where I wanted them, in different corridors when they were alive.
That's the truth.
Yeah.
And that didn't work out so well. It did, but not.
Well, you know what? He's having a great time. I know that for sure. Okay. Well,
Wait, hold on a second.
Yes.
Matthew?
Yes.
How does your psychic abilities apply to sports betting?
Oh, okay. Good night. Goodbye.
It's an honest question.
It wouldn't be the first time somebody's asked. Honestly, I don't know that they would work so well. And the reason why is the amount of unknown possibilities in that situation are crazy, because prediction is only what's probable, not what is concretely going to happen. So I wouldn't pay me for sports betting advice if I were you.
Are you astrologically inclined as well?
I'm not an astrologer, but I
well,
love
that's what I'm
astrology.
Well, I'm just asking him because I know you are.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I know a little bit about astrology, but I would not claim to be an astrologer.
When's your birthday?
But it is
Here we go.
August 28th. I'm a
Okay,
Virgo.
your sun conjuncts my moon.
Hello.
I can tell you
really?
that right now. Pretty much.
You know
Yes.
more about astrology?
Yes. See how
At least something's getting conjuncted around here.
you can conjunct me later.
Okay.
Okay. All right. I think we're good.
We're good.
This has been fantastic.
Fantastic is
Where
right.
can we find you, Matthew?
So you can find me my website, MatthewStapley.com, or my Facebook page, which is at Canadian Psych, or Facebook.com/Canadian Psychic.
Okay. And since every episode I am tongue-tied as to where to find us, I wrote it down because
Oh my God.
Okay, you ready, everybody?
No.
Here's where to find us. Done Being Single can be found at Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Amazon, TuneIn, Stitcher, Spotify, Listen Notes, Podcast Chaser, Podcast Addict, and
Every other place.
I mean,
That's
wherever
where-
you, yeah. Okay, and you can find me at Trevor Brandon Sharp. You can find, take two. You can find me at trevorbrandonsharf.com. You can read my blogs, find out about my coaching services, contact me, let's work together. Contact us with your questions, dilemmas. You can vent, rant. We want it all.
Matthew, thank you. This has been
Thank you
great.
guys. It was a
Really enjoyed
pleasure.
it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I'm Shadow Stevens with my friends Trevor and Robbie. See you next week on Done Being Single.